This episode is sponsored by the Foreman School in Litchfield, Connecticut, a lovely town it is. A coeducational college prep school that empowers bright students who learn differently. And who would not want to learn differently? To learn more about the nation's first and best co-ed school for high school and postgraduate students with learning differences, go to formanschool.org. That's Forman school.org. Hello, and welcome to Distraction. I'm your host, Dr. Ned Hallowell. Thank you for joining me for today's Listener Q&A, sponsored by the Foreman School. Today's question comes from a listener by the name of Sarah, who is a 20-year-old college student. She wrote, "Hi, Dr. Hallowell. I just finished Driven to Distraction and would first off like to express my gratitude. I loved your book. Thank you." I said, that's my thank you, not hers. It was really validating and relatable. I had the sense I had inattentive ADD for a long time, but didn't start treatment until college. I'm 20 now, and simply learning about how ADD factors into things like emotional processing has been so helpful. I've also been helped greatly by medication. I want to ask about the intense self-criticism that some people with ADD experience. I've always been a very high achiever academically and never had the big struggle with my parents. I've never needed outside pressure because all my pressure is internal. I'm realizing lately that because I'm so self-directed and I'm not used to dealing with failure, I have a vicious self-critical streak and a tendency to beat myself up over mistakes. I started a new job at a science lab about 2 months ago, and I'm not doing very well. It's a learning experience, of course, and I'm very grateful for that. But I wanted to ask you for some tips on tempering self-criticism. I really related to the passage in your book about how one client felt like he had to answer to the preacher of self-loathing and would get trapped in a hyperfixation around negative self-talk. How can I build up my self-esteem and deconstruct the critic? Many thanks, Sarah M. Well, it's, first of all, you're quite right. It's a common issue. And I have a two-part answer. First, building up self-esteem. The best way to build confidence and self-esteem is to make progress at something that matters to you and is challenging. It has to be challenging or you'll get bored with it. And it has to matter to you or you won't care. But if you can make progress at something that matters to you and is challenging, your confidence, motivation, and self-esteem will inevitably increase. You may need to get help doing that. You may need to get a tutor, a friend, a mentor, some person who can help you make progress. But making progress at some activity that is both challenging and matters to you is the surest way to build confidence and self-esteem. The second question, deconstructing the critic. I've talked about this before, but it's certainly worth talking about again because it's new material out of brain science. What happens in people with ADD when your imagination is not engaged in a constructive task, a network of neurons lights up called the default mode network, the DMN. And I call this the demon, the DMN, because what it tends to do in people like us with ADD, it tends to send out a stream of negativity, just self-criticism, life criticism, hopeless messages, just messages of gloom and doom, and just heaping criticism on you. The mistake is to take that for reality. It's a creation of your imagination. Your imagination hyper-focusing on everything negative. And the thing to do is to switch your attention to something else. That's hard because the negative is very compelling. You don't say she was riveted in contentment, but you do say she was riveted in self-loathing, anxiety, fears of the future, regrets from the past. That's riveting, and it holds your attention. So what you got to do is discipline yourself to redirect your attention to something else, some other task. Bake a cake, sing a song, talk to a friend, anything. You need to redirect your attention to some other focus, because whatever you focus on will grow. And if you're focusing on the negative, that just keeps growing. Deny the demon your attention. Don't feed the demon. If you shut off your attention, it will wither and go away. But you got to do that. Learn how to not feed the demon with your attention. All right, that's going to do it for the Q&A for today. Thank you to Sarah for sending in today's question, an excellent question that I think most people can identify with right away. If you have a question you'd like me to answer, please send it to connect@distractionpodcast.com. That's connect@distractionpodcast.com. I'd also like to thank the Foreman School in Litchfield, Connecticut for sponsoring this episode. Foreman, I adore that school. I've known that school for many years. It really is a leader in understanding people with brains like mine, with people who learn differently. Distraction is created by Sounds Great Media. Our recording engineer and editor is the wonderful Scott Persson, and our producer is the delightful Sarah Guertin. I'm Dr. Ned Hallowell, and thank you so very much for listening. The episode you just heard was sponsored by the Foreman School in Litchfield, Connecticut, beautiful Litchfield. Foreman gives students who learn differently the resources to discover what they care about, to find success in a wide range of fields, and to just be themselves, not just their diagnosis. Learn more about the nation's first and best co-ed school for high school and postgraduate students with learning differences at formanschool.org. That's Forman school.org.